Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Fadli Bakhtiar. I'm the program director of Econice. Thank you for being here. And of course, thank you to the distinguished guests for allowing this to happen today. So for today, this is the first panel session. And without further ado, I would like to invite, announce names to invite our distinguished panelists. We'll start with number one, Mr. Wong Tin Song, Undersecretary Energy Efficiency Division of Ministry of MESTEC. Please, over stage. And secondly, Dr. Wei Ni Chen, Chief Strategy Officer of SEDA. Welcome on the stage. The third person will be Dato' Leong Kin Mun, President, Malaysian Biomass Industries Association, MBIC. Welcome, Dato'. The fourth would be Tunku Akmaluddin Zakri, Green RE Manager and Vice President of Malaysian Photovoltaic Industry Association, MPIA. Welcome on the stage, Tunku. And last but not least, homegrown, Prof. Dr. Kumaran Palani Sami, Professor of Uniten Research and Development. Please, welcome on the stage, everyone. So okay, hold on, we'll wait for Prof. to be on the stage, yeah? Welcome, Prof. Okay, welcome all the distinguished panelists. First of all, I am very honored to be sitting with all these accomplished individuals in their own respective industries and expertise. So the format of the panel session is that the first part, each of the panelists would have a couple of minutes to introduce themselves and their background, and perhaps something that they feel very important to introduce to all the guests here. And after that, we will continue with the questions that will be posed to the panelists. Either they will answer individuals, or it can be also supported by the other panelists. That will be for about 45 minutes in total. And after that, we will have about half an hour, 30 minutes for Q&A from the floor. And I hope throughout the discussion, you will be able to come up with questions when the Q&A session starts, okay? So maybe perhaps we will start with, from my first on the left, Mr. Wong Tin Song, to introduce himself and his background.
Okay, I'm Wong, Undersecretary of this energy efficiency, energy sector actually from MESTEC. I'm the wrong person actually, but sit in the right place. Because today I'm actually talking about renewable energy, and you actually get an energy efficiency person to be here. But right place because I just have, just now you have the pledges by the students who says that you wanted to go sustainable. But frankly speaking, you cannot do a lot, many things actually from the renewable energy perspective. You can only do from the energy efficiency perspective. You can actually first try to lower the aircon temperature of this auditorium. Not at 18 where all of us have to put our winter jackets, but instead we should be actually like the Japan, dressed down. And there's actually a lot of things because all of us are using a lot of gadgets like laptops, computers, and when you're actually using all these, many of the students, including my son, they're actually playing desktop with all the computer games. And the advice that we always give to them actually is that when you're not using the computers, even though you actually have the safe mode, but please off the computer. So these are actually all easy ways actually to make ourselves go along the life of sustainability before we actually embark on, to make actually the whole economy green. And I think the very obvious things that probably we can actually do from the household perspective is to have the rooftop solar. Then, using the NAM mechanism, which Dr. Chen, I'm trying to say things that are product, so that to make sure that she has enough things to say, not cover whatever that she wants to speak. So I think there's actually a wide spectrum of activities that we can do. I also probably would like to highlight, since time is very short, that after we actually have energy efficiency, we always consider them as the number one or the first fuel. Then we actually move into renewable energy, and then after you should probably have a mechanism. Here we're actually exploring the near zero or the net zero energy building, where you try to integrate, you optimize the energy consumption, either at the building level or even actually at the community level. In this case, places like Uniten, if you wanted to become a green campus, then the whole mechanism of making the optimization actually of the energy users can actually be done by both energy efficiency and also the renewable energy effort. And there are a lot of things. We're not only talking about solar. Even Dr. Chen is an advocate for solar, but I think we have so many other biomass resources, biogas resources, waste to energy. There's a lot of opportunity that we can actually always explore. Not necessarily at a very big level, because to do big, such as the large-scale solar project by chopping down trees, forests, is not going to be sustainable. So I'm actually a representative from ministry, yet I'm quite an advocate on the environmental perspective. Okay, with that, thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wong. It was a very good start to set the tone of this panel. Okay, please, Dr. Weni, if you may. Everyone will have their. Everyone has their own mic. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, Encik Fadli. And I think, first of all, I would like to thank Uniten's, the VC, Professor Dato' Kamal, and also, of course, CEO of Malaysia Kini, CTO of TMB, for jointly organizing all this and giving SEDA a platform to speak this morning. My name is Weni, and I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Sustainable Energy Development Authority. So maybe a quick show of hands here. How many of you here have not heard of SEDA before? Okay, so I'm talking to a very educated crowd this morning. So I'm really very excited to be here this morning, because I felt that this year is a year dedicated to the voice of youth. I just came back from Dubai from the World Economic Forum. We have this annual meeting for the Global Future Council, and the Global Future Council basically shapes the direction of where the Davos is heading. And after much deliberation, the first thing that we conclude was that there was one statement. It says, the children were right. This is your future, this is your voice. And I'm so excited to listen to the presentation of the two speakers, and I felt that they gave very in-depth insights, really, that I have got really nothing very much to say, except you are really very right. The future belongs to you. You have the right to detect what you want out of it, and I'm very pleased with the polls. And I think the good news with the last slide is that in the very near future to come, renewable energy no longer have to be expensive. Yeah, it is the only way, coupled with energy efficiency, Mr. Wong is saying. And of course, solar is not the only way. All components need to come together. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Weni. Okay, next up, Dr. Leong, if you please introduce yourself and your background.
Okay. First of all, thank you very much, to Malaysia Kini and Uniten for inviting me and also Malaysia Bahamas Industry Confederation to share our perspective on Malaysia biomass opportunity. Biomass, yeah. When we pronounce biomass and biomass, I always prefer to pronounce as biomass, because it actually presents a mass opportunity for bioresources in Malaysia. And we should feel very proud, because we have so many biomass in Malaysia. Yeah. You just imagine, based on my experience having the association, almost every month we have a lot of foreigners knocking our doors, exploring collaboration with Malaysia biomass sectors, on various appealing economic models dealing with biomass. When we talk about the biomass economic models in Malaysia context, especially based on oil palm biomass, we actually have four major economic models: biomass as bioenergy. And of course, for today's forum, we are focused on bioenergy. But in addition to that, we have biomass for agriculture application, biomass as eco-product, biomass as green chemicals. Yeah. And I have 10 years working experience with the EU and UN project, focusing on sustainability perspective and business model perspective for biomass sectors and also RE sectors. Yeah. Okay. I will share some perspective. During the panel discussion later.
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Dato'. Okay, next, Tunku Akmaluddin.
Hello, good morning. Thank you for inviting all of us here today. I am the Vice President of MPIA, Malaysian Photovoltaic Industry Malaysia. And just to talk to you a little bit about solar. I mean, we are the most biggest contributor in this group right here. Solar is, for the students, very simply, taking energy from the sun, bringing it in, it comes in DC, we have to invert it to change it to AC, all right? And we're doing this in a very big way. Why solar is so successful now is because of the turnover and how quick we can flip these projects in Malaysia, while others take a little bit more time. But this energy has a little bit of disadvantages as well. As you know, we can only be using it in the day. I am also a Green RE manager. So it's a certification body that tells you what stages you can be as a green building. So we give platinum, gold, silver, bronze, and all this sort of classes. So it's very interesting that actually, to tell you the truth, in our kampong days, when having our kampong house, that's already like a good gold building already, you know. But because buildings came from the West, then we have to make in such a way where we can do this green thing to make it more efficient, better, use less electricity, and make our buildings more green. And yeah, so this is what I do. And thank you.
Prof, would you be able to? Yeah.
All right, thank you. So I think they saved the best for the last. I think. Okay. I'm Kumaran. As the moderator has mentioned, introduce yourself. Okay. I have spent a decent 15 years in the power industry that comes where produces power from the conventional fossil energy, ranging from developing the plant, operating and maintenance. So pretty much I'm from that area. In the last 17 years, I've been dedicating my career on renewable energy, basically advocating, undertaking research, implementing, and so on.
Switch side, eh?
Yeah.
Switch.
Yeah, it's not a switching side. I think that is the future I see when I return back from US and been assigned in Uniten. There is a lot of need then, where at that time solar was not affordable or not even reachable in 2000. It used to be very expensive per kilowatt. And the other renewable sources, the potential has been there, but although it's in abundance, but the technology was not there yet. So a lot of work has been done in these recent years, and with the RE Act came into effect in 2011, the renewable energy uptake has seen positive light, and we can see what we have today with SEDA doing quite a bit of effort in promoting renewable energy together with Tenaga Nasional Berhad and all the other industries. We can see as a nation, we have been putting a lot of effort on renewable energy. Plus, on the university side, we have been spending quite a lot of effort on doing the R&D that is required to support the renewable energy industry, including providing consultancy and support services, plus training to develop the human capital needed to support the renewable energy. So that's pretty much what I have been doing in the past 1 30 over years, and so I've seen both sides. A lot of people are today very enthusiastic, especially the youth. They are very enthusiastic about what you call renewable energy. It's pretty much like, how enthusiastic are you about getting married? You know after that, right? So renewable energy is something very exciting, but there is a lot of pitfalls. And it has got a lot of setback as far as electricity industry is concerned. So, but it has to be addressed in a systematic way. One of the areas is, we know renewable energy is intermittent, like it was rightfully pointed out about, you can only use solar in the day, but you cannot use it in the night. How do we do that? So that's why there's a lot of research or effort is being put in on energy storage, R&D, so that we can make it happen. The order of the day is to make it happen rather than giving excuses not to make it happen. So that's my take.
Thank you so much, Prof. Well, it's great that all of our panelists introduce themselves, because I have some of the questions that really relate to their introductions. Yeah. So we'll move first, of course, to our representative from the government agency, Mr. Wong. So in the earlier presentations, even as well as I think the speeches, the government has set a goal of 20% of RE capacity mix by 2025. It has been mentioned a few times during the earlier parts just now. And we are at 11%, if I'm not mistaken, from the presentation as well in 2019. So technically we have about 9% to go by 2025, which is about 5 to 6 years to go. So the question is that, what is the progress of RE industry so far in Malaysia, and as far as the target is concerned? Can we achieve it? Maybe it can be, yes, from the representative from the government.
Okay, thank you very much. I think when the new government came on board, and it's no longer new, they came in with their aspirational target of the 6% within the national power mix by 2025, just to include a caveat that it actually excludes hydro more than large hydro, which is defined as anything over 100 megawatts. So correctly, as the student has pointed out, that the RE as of 2018 is actually 6%. Yeah, and SEDA has actually been entrusted by the ministry to develop a renewable energy transition roadmap all the way up to 2035. So the midway milestone of 2025, we must know how we can achieve that 20% target. So the roadmap is still in progress. We are coming to a conclusion of it already, and we should be submitting the final report to MASTEC by Q1 of next year, and SEDA aims to have it launched in April next year in our 5th International Sustainable Energy Summit. So just to answer very quickly your question, can the target be met? Yes, it can be met. Under business as usual, if there is no intervention, we will reach 12% of RE by 2025. But by 2025, in order to reach that, we will have to address a gap of around 3,830 megawatts, of which we also acknowledge that largely it will come from solar, and it will be complemented by the non-variable, which is the bioenergy, the biomass, the biogas, the waste to energy, and the small hydro. And in fact, these are very important resources, because solar, rightfully, as Professor has pointed out, is intermittent in nature, but the others, like the bioenergy and the small hydro, they are considered somewhat dispatchable, so they can help to balance the solar mix.
So, yes?
I probably just want to add on the point that I think in Malaysian, we actually have all the RMK, the Rancangan Malaysia. And many of the plans are always good on papers, because they're all documents. So I remember actually when we first drafted the energy policy, the component actually of the renewable has always been there. I think even with the targets of 30 megawatts, but it was actually almost like unachievable until when the establishment of SEDA and also the FIT mechanism come into force in 2011. I think one important point from the policy perspective, especially to the drive from the ministry is, I think as a government, I think the ministry must have a clear policy direction and consistency to ensure that the targets actually that we set are being achieved. So I think now with the new regime, and and suddenly all of us are all very excited to the extent that we actually have a forum today addressing the 20% issue. But I hope the assignment actually will not dwindle after a couple of years, when there is, sometimes a change in government, a change in the leadership. So I think these are the things that I would hope actually that RETR, that the energy transition roadmap now embarked actually by SEDA, subsequently next year when it is being launched, it will be actually taken as an official document that this is the direction, this is the future of the country, that all of us will ensure that we are actually able to actually achieve that target. I think that consistency and persistency for us, I think we probably have to acknowledge that renewable is there to stay. Whether you decide to achieve it in a faster manner, or you probably may want to actually go into the status quo, business as usual, fossil fuel centered kind of mentality, and then you let your other competitors actually get over you and then achieve the target. I think that is the direction that as a government, I think we have that responsibility. And I think, from the perspective of the university, you remember about 10, 20 years ago, we were contemplating of even using nuclear as a source of, electricity generation. Then the university, some of them, they even actually train, having the students who are doing degree or master or PhD in that. And after that, there is a change in the direction that we are not going to go nuclear. I think such indecision or not making any decision, I think is actually not going to be good, for the country actually as a whole. Okay, that is my only point that I'm trying to drive at this moment of time.
Okay, so moving on to that, you mentioned about the policies, and I think it affects a lot of with the big energy players like TNBs and IPPs. Do you think, as you mentioned, Dr. Mr. Wong, that if business as usual, do you think these companies, especially big energy producers, are they moving towards what has been set by the government? Do you see the trend that they are actually moving towards this, or business as usual?
You're talking about the utilities.
Yes, yep. Well, let's see what's your point of view.
Well, I think from the, Dr. Chan, correct me if I'm wrong, the LSS 1, 2, 3, the bigger players are there. TNB is there, Petronas is there, to actually compete actually for the solar. Malakoff is also there. So I think it actually shows the interest that the IPPs themselves are interested. The only thing is that MPIA, as a solar industry players, you may not be that comfortable to compete with the bigger players because it's just competing actually a small player with a big giant. I think there are actually a lot of issues. But getting the utilities company to, because they've created a lot of sin, right? By polluting the environment, by having all these carbon fossil fuel. So I think give them opportunity. Whether we're actually going to have some renewable energy standards when there is actually such a requirement that there is some obligation for them to have targets for them to contribute to the renewable energy. I think as of now, there is no policy direction, talking about our portfolio mechanism. SEDA might be very keen to explore on that. You may want to have a word on that?
So I think just to address the utility, I think first and foremost, there is a sign going on around the world, especially it's happening in Europe. There is this syndrome, what they call the utility spiral death. I think it's inevitable that if you do not start to have an energy transition within the utilities, they will just fall into their own demise. So with this, I really believe that TNB is already evolving. That's why they are reimagining. Even when we were discussing with TNB, they voluntarily are moving into RE and EE in a very big way. You know, they have their innovation team talking about the digitalization of the energy sector. But I think the bigger issue here is that under the MESI 2.0, which is the reform of the electricity market, the government's direction is that they do not just want to see one or two big players. It is really sharing the pie, introducing competition, and creating an emerging industry out of that. And I think this is very important because electricity can sometimes be very monopolizing, but if we can democratize electricity so that there is a fairer wealth distribution, I think that is a very important message. But I think I would also like to hear from my counterparts, you know, from the biomass and also from the PV industry, and also, of course, from the academicians, what they would like to see the RETR to have. I think that kind of views, I think, is very important. Do you think it's possible for them to share that? Or you may have other questions?
Actually, the next question is really moving forward from what I just asked, which is from the point of view of industries, associations. What is your role in setting the standards and meeting them? And of course, we mentioned about the big players versus the associations. How do you create that sort of competition and making, especially the end goal is making clean energy more affordable for the consumer? So maybe from Dato' or Tengku? Dato' first, sure.
I share some perspective of biomass energy development in Malaysia context. Yeah. When we talk about biomass energy, always many people will link to feed-in tariff. Yeah, okay. In actual term, feed-in tariff for bioenergy is not that successful, inverted comma, not that successful, compared to using bioenergy or biomass for your own consumption. For instance, palm oil mill. Yeah. So we have basically, two general business models using biomass for own consumption, biomass, and for feed-in tariff. And for under feed-in tariff, again, we have another two working models. One is the palm oil mill owner doing it on their own. Another one is undertaken by a third-party project developers. Yeah, okay. So let me elaborate the first category, fuel consumption, for the own consumption. We call it fuel switching or captive power model. This business model is working pretty well in Malaysia. I give you one realistic example. For instance, under the electricity rate for industrial, in average, we are talking about 40 cents per kilowatt. But under feed-in tariff, in average, we are talking about 30 cents and above. So there's a difference of 10 cents. That makes a lot of difference. So when you use biomass for your own energy consumption in your own plant for instance, rubber cloth or palm oil mill, the payback period is pretty fast. Yeah. Financial payback period, we are talking about in average 4 to 5 years. If you are lucky, 4 years. If you are not so lucky, it's 5 years. That is pretty good. And to support my statement, you can analyze the biomass boiler business in Malaysia. They're actually doing pretty well. The biomass business providers in Malaysia, their business revenue, they are talking about 200-300 million a year. Just focusing on Malaysia bioenergy sectors. Okay, this is first model. Second perspective, when you look into feed-in tariff, then we have too many issues. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is based on feedback from the industry. The rate is not attractive. And another killer scenario in the market, feed-in tariff biomass project developer, you have another uphill task after you get the approval from SEDA. You actually couldn't get financing from the bank. Many banks have blacklisted feed-in tariff biomass power plant project. Mainly because they have very horrible experience for the first two batch project. Yeah. I've gotten feedback from many banks. Yeah. Early on, some of the most friendly banks, I don't mind to share the name, like Bank Pembangunan. Yeah, they have blacklisted biomass power plant. Okay, and another example is commercial bank, not proper to review the name. They have a loan for 150 million for a biomass power plant project in Peninsula. But the revenue for this biomass power plant, you just imagine simple mathematics, 150 million loan for a biomass power plant. But the annual revenue based on feed-in tariff for this biomass power plant, 1 year, hanya 10 juta saja, 10 million. How to pay back the bank loan? So there's a lot of operational issues. I mean, when you get the feedback from the project developers, yeah. As an association, we have received many feedback from the players, hopefully to lobby with SEDA for a higher feed-in tariff. Maybe Dr. Vinny can address it. Yeah, okay, yeah. And also, earlier on, for the history of feed-in tariff, it was actually designed for the biomass sector. But however, and ultimately, the solar sectors, benefit the most. And logistically speaking, to run a biomass power plant, and we talk about the project IRR, we are just, if you are lucky, you get 12%. 12% for project IRR for biomass power plant is not sexy at all, frankly speaking, because it's an active business model. I would better focus on solar. I sleep and do not need to do anything. I get 8 to 9%. Yeah, okay? That is a very simple comparison. Yeah, I will reserve some bullet later.
Sure. So let's hear what the MPIA representative, Tunku.
Okay, so basically you heard two government side, and then you have Dato. I'll tell you the truth.
Wow. Are we ready for that?
Private sector, yeah? We are the ones who's going to bring up this industry ourselves. The government has helped us from the beginning, no doubt. Started with the FIT program, and now we're on the NEM program, and soon to be, we will be on the P2P program. So, in solar, for us, the less control you have on us, the better. Free market is the way, okay? But how do we achieve this? I'll tell you the truth. The banks are not really that supportive yet. We have come into our NEM stage now. FIT days, yeah, very good. High rates mean banks like come running. Now when the rates are getting lower, and we're getting more private, and we're getting more free market, then banks are like, okay, let me see, you know. But I'll tell you two banks, I'm going to say names. It doesn't matter. UOB and Hon Leong now are strongest in the sector, in solar. But CIMB and Maybank still hasn't have a grip on us yet. So I don't know what's going on. We're waiting for these guys to come and support us in the way that we want. So MPIA has gone to all these banks, and we've been trashing and fighting and conversing with all these banks for the private sector. But the game now today is the PPA game, because people who don't have the money to put up for the solar, then we can do a power purchase for them, and we can put out the capex. So that money is free market money, maybe from overseas, maybe from internal, maybe big companies in Malaysia who can afford, they'll go ahead, you know. I'll talk to you about LSS. LSS is supposed to be large, big sums of money that needs to be done. And the success rate is not that great. Banks, like I said, are not coming, so maybe 20-30% is being done, is being flipped. These projects are not taking off. The latest LSS, there was a price for 17.7 cents, which was the lowest. And some of us in the industry, some of us in the association were like, how is this possible, you know? Is this like some fake solar panel that you bring here or what? You know, so there's two ways to this. Some ways we should protect ourselves a little bit. Some ways maybe we should protect ourselves from FDI as well. And some ways we just got to let it flow, you know? Yeah.
Okay, Prof, I think based on your vast background in academics, from your perspective, and of course the institution's perspective, how do you see whether we will have the right talents to push off to these targets in the future? And my personal concern is that due to the age of information and things are moving really fast, and do you see that the education institution in Malaysia gives or provides the right kind of educations or knowledge for it to, catch up to the world trends, moving fast? What do you think about that? And of course, what are the other things that Intel are doing, to develop these needed skills for the future RE demands?
Before I answer the question on the education and skills development,
Yes.
I'd like to make a little bit of comment on the previous panel's input,
Sure.
especially related to biomass and also solar. Especially when you look at biomass, is pretty much mostly is from waste to energy, because they are all agricultural waste or some form of waste converted. That's where the biomass comes. Whereas solar is from free energy. So obviously there is always a competition, but between both of them, there will be one big difference, which will be sustainability issues that will be always been argued around. That's fine. Let the market decide. All right, which one they want to choose. From the, there's one question was raised on the how much the biomass industry have evolved from the time of SRAP program and then now moving into feed-in tariff, with starting with 17 cents per kilowatt hour to be sold. But everybody is talking about selling the electricity for money, but about self-consuming for heat purpose. Because sometimes you can use the biomass to produce heat, not necessarily electricity. By consuming heat, you may be reducing the use of fossil fuel that may be actually used for producing the heat. But now the question is, when you want to produce electricity, what is the right pricing that will make the business viable? I think from that perspective, Uniten has been taking up a few studies related to life cycle analysis, life cycle cost analysis, and all this through our School of Business and College of Energy Business Studies and all this. So what we are doing is, we are trying, as a university, we are trying to put a neutral point of view as inputs for the industry as well as regulators and the authority to decide. Obviously, if you ask the industry, they want the sky. There was a time solar was fetching 1 ringgit 75 cents for building integrated. Is that the right price? I still remember back in 2012 when RE Act was first launched. I was sitting there and a lot of the forum was arguing, why solar so high? Why not for biomass? Because biomass is in abundance and is also part of our palm oil industry output. And these are all our resources. Why not give more to the palm oil mill waste, which will actually spur more spillover effect? That was the argument then. But obviously solar won the race, and that's why you can see the outcome. But biomass is still in a lethargic mode, which a lot to be done. And one of the questions that been regularly asked, what is the right price that should make this viable? Like what was pointed out, 150 million of load, and you're getting a revenue of 10 million. How is this? I think no need to go mathematics class, you can calculate how long it will take to pay back the bank. So what will be the right size? Obviously, if you ask the industry, they want 80 cent, 90 cent and all. So what Uniten has been currently undertaking is an exercise together with support of SEDA really studying from the past, we know what can be the right pricing that can help, and I think that can be also be an input for the renewable energy transition roadmap and all this. So efforts are being done by the universities. Then coming back to the question of how about the local universities? I think a lot of the local universities have already embraced and embarked into renewable energy research way back in RMK 10, or even way back 9. Because there was a lot of fund was given back then in under IRPA, and that was very much supporting RE research. So on the research front, a lot of research has been done, and many of the outcome of this research is now sitting in the shelves somewhere, and not being taken up because of it is the difference between translation of the research to the commercialization. Now, what we are doing at the university in UNITEN, I can speak on that, what we have done. We have developed technologies that can make renewable energy affordable. That is the research that some of it we have been doing. Example, we try to make the process faster or cheaper. So that way, the cost or investment cost can become lower, and that can be taken up. So UNITEN owns a few IPs that is ready to be taken up, and some of it is undergoing translation to commercialization. Some of our research, for example, UNITEN have undertaken research with the sewage treatment industry and developed the technology that will harness the waste from the sewage to electricity. And the last 4 years, we have been already implementing it and already generating electricity from sewage. That's on the research part. On the training part, how is the university or UNITEN is doing? As we speak now, we have undertaking 5 days training on biogas operation and maintenance in collaboration with SEDA. SEDA and UNITEN has been working very closely, and we have been receiving a lot of support from SEDA to allow us or even give us an opportunity to support the human capital development. We have undertaken various trainings on biogas and biomass. Obviously, photovoltaic trainings and also human capital development is undertaken by other universities. So, to say it short, many of the universities are already supporting the human capital development. Quite a lot of our alumni in UNITEN are already embarked into renewable energy industries. Plus, some of them have already turned into entrepreneurs who are already in the renewable energy business. So that is to give you a perspective. And UNITEN has a dedicated college, because being an energy university, we have dedicated college who is working on energy business and energy economics. So this is as far as what UNITEN and other universities have done. Hope I have answered most of this.
Thank you. So first of all, we have covered everyone, so at least everyone get to the chance to speak. And I have a few more questions that perhaps can be shared within the panel. And of course, we want to stay a bit on the youth, on the future markets. And
This is as far as what
for example, for Tunku, from the point of view of association, for example, or even from the university point of view, or education institution, where do you see, you mentioned that youth are already, there are a lot of the graduates are already going through this, into this industry. But from the association point of view, do you see the involvement of young people in associations? Because usually when people think about association, what they think is mainly, like maybe old people, people with money, for example. Perhaps this is some of the things. Like, do you see the involvement of the young, like young people in associations to drive through this agenda? Do you see the involvement of?
For one, I'm the youngest in the association, so I am the youth, I hope. Still a little bit more.
Yeah. So talking about, say, younger, like in the 20s, for example. Like, do you think? No. My point of view is that, do you think that people in the early, like you see the rise of young people in the global movement, and do you see the same thing in associations, like you get more participation from younger people that really wants to drive through this for a longer, or longer run?
Yeah, so I have this nephew in college and uni as well, doing plastic presentations, saving the world. You know, the youth has that mentality for it already. The passion, the drive that drives you guys like, you know, we want to go beautiful snorkeling and see nice corals and we don't want plastic there. And it's there, the mindset is there. But in this business, engineers, all the engineers out there, you love green, go for this. This is the way to go. Sales engineers. I'm not an engineer myself, so I'm really trying to learn, you know, what's going on in that part of the studies. So, yeah, you guys are our future. You guys got to get on this green boat, we call it. You know, there's only one world there. There's no second choice. We're not going to go Mars or anything like that. So we have to save whatever we have now. We need the attitude from the beginning. We need you guys to always have that preventive thinking, you know, where whatever we do on this earth, we got to make sure that we're not going to make it worse. We're going to make it better. So sustainable, keeping it green. I mean, for sure. Youth has the only way. We have to save the only way, because the youth are the ones who's going to teach the older guys as well how to change that mindset. You know.
Okay, yeah, what do you think, Dato'? Like, really, like from a point of view of association, right? Having younger people in and having a louder voice, do you think it's something that is looking forward to?
I will show you a real life example
Yeah,
right
sure.
now. Maybe Shu, you want to stand up? Yeah. Yes, this is, yeah. She's my executive secretary for the association. I have a first degree in environment, second degree in economics. Yeah. So she's young.
What do you think,
Yeah.
Dato'? Like,
And
really, like from a point of view. That's great to know. I think the audience need to know this. You know.
And secondly, I mean, from my members' company under our
Something that is
confederation,
looking forward to.
and they have many youngsters, I mean, as engineers, as a young executive, as well as young entrepreneurs, championing various entrepreneur models related to biomass value chain, as I highlighted just now, bioenergy, bioagriculture, eco-products.
That's great to know. I think.
So we do have a lot of, youngster participation in this industry at different value chains.
It's good to know for the audience here that they always open up for this sort of opportunity. Yes.
Yeah, maybe I can add a bit more. Not in the capacity of from the university. I'm also the vice president of Malaysian Energy Professional Association. So, answering to add to what has been mentioned, we noticed there is a increase of membership application among the audience graduates and those who are in recent times. So which means, of course, the Malaysian Energy Professional Association caters for the whole energy industry, not only for renewable, but we see in the members' application portfolio, among the membership, new applicants are new and they are very much involved in energy efficiency and renewable energy, which means the current youths are really very concerned about sustainability as a whole, means where energy efficiency and renewable energy is the order of the day. To say that definitely their involvement is there already and they are very serious. Now back to the university point, some of the programs that we undertake is we reach out on renewable energy and energy efficiency program to school level. We give real hands-on training how to convert waste to energy for school children. And when we give this kind of program, you can see the seeds are already being planted in them towards becoming the future leaders and advocates of renewable energy. That's what we achieve. Thank you.
Okay. Probably questions to our government representative. So we're talking about moving to renewable energies. Perhaps controversial. I won't say controversial. Just what would happen to the non-RE industries in terms of infrastructure investment policies and dominance and influence? Do you see that like now is this race to go towards renewable energy, and there are non-renewable energy big industries that is already spent and invested so much for the past 100 years, perhaps. Like, yeah, I'm curious to know, like, yeah?
Investment policies and dominance.
Well, I don't
see that, like now,
Good future,
Yeah,
but
so your question is directed
in terms of
to
sustainability,
existing
all our distinguished
You're talking about Sarawak
panelists.
Energy.
it could be
Sabah Energy,
not
in
necessarily just
Malaysia,
not
as
just
well as
necessarily-
all
it
the
could
other
be
projects.
oil and gas.
Yeah,
Like all this investment that has been done.
I'm curious to know, like,
Education system knowledge that has been on and will continue for a while, and then you're talking about the renewable energy and how do you compensate it? Like, I'm sure it's tough from the government point of view, because these are two big lobbies that will fight over the pie. So
Okay.
what is your opinion?
Okay, I will answer this. Before that, I will go into the earlier question. I'm so excited to be young. You know, I'm still young. I'm only 58 years old. Okay, so call that youthfulness actually is in your mind, whether you are able actually to drive whatever things which are, you know, trendy and then call that they are actually promising. So in this case, you know, we always take the utilities as, you know, call that an entity which may be of a certain age, and sometimes, you know, the kind of perception that we actually have upon them is that, you know, they are slow, they are giant, and that they will be one day very much like IBM will be, you know, overtaken by bigger or more agile kind of players. But I think the reality in Malaysia, in this case, even though we are talking, you know, the minister is talking excitedly, you know, about renewable energy portfolio, but I think if you look from the ministry perspective, the focus, the intensity, the kind of attention that we are giving, basically this is still the game of the big players. Renewable energy is only a small part of the whole big picture. Even when, you know, every year when we're actually doing the, you know, the planting up of the IPPs, this is still very much a big player's game, whereas the renewable energy component, they are only there probably for the last couple of years. And in order to make your presence felt in a more intensified actually manner, I think we consider that actually as an achievement now that in the JAPAC planning actually of the energy, it is clearly spelled out that we actually put in the 20%. You know, and then it is spelled out how much of the LSS 1, 2, 3 program, you know, will be there, you know, for us to achieve the 20% of the renewable energy target. And even there is actually always the cap, in this case, of the penetration, the maximum RE component that we can actually put inside. So in this case, I think the kind of magic number is always that, you know, in Malaysia, we can probably go for a maximum of 25%. RETR, probably they're actually going to talk about 27%, you know, and some, you know, they will probably be saying that, well, you should probably only push to 20 and not more than 25. As of 2025, but the issue that probably we should address, I think, is that after 25, from 2025 to 2050, is it going to be a 20% stagnant level until 2050? That looks like a possible policy projection. So I think this is actually where people like you and me, the younger people, because by 2050, unless I can be strong as Tun, then 2050 I'm still relevant. You know? Other than that, I think this will be the world of the youth, where you are there actually to decide whether at 2050, are we brave enough actually to embrace 100% renewable energy? So that is probably the decision that we must have. RETR, you actually have the projection until 2035, which is better than the 2025 projection. So let's see what SEDA has to do, and then so that the whole landscape of the energy industry is not only the, what I call that, the original, the kind of utility players, the fossil fuel player, even the gas players. I think the gas players themselves are also shifting. We are actually engaged with a lot of discussion with the Malaysian Gas Association, and then they're actually embarking of, one of the initiatives is to take the biogas from the thing and be part of the gas system. And they are actually also working on that cogeneration model where you can actually also incorporate the thermal component, I think, which I think Professor Kumaran has been talking. So I think there is actually a lot of exciting opportunities that we can actually have. Bear in mind some of the issues, the financing issue, they will definitely there because this is a real bread and butter kind of thing, But so I think the strategy that probably that the government may need actually to address that if we are seriously to have all the various renewable energy sources, some of them we should probably come in and help them because we have the bigger resources of that nature that we should help. Like we have helped the solar industry. So in this case, biomass in Malaysia, the palm plantation, they're facing some sustainable issue, the deforestation issue. So I think a lot of the sustainability component actually need to be addressed. The palm oil millers earlier on, they were not interested in all these empty fruit bunches because they have better use, better values, and then they can actually sell the palm oil at a much lucrative prices. But with all this global competition coming in, so I think people are beginning to realize that you are not just solving, just getting money, but you're actually addressing the whole sustainability issues. Okay, so, well, am I damaging on TMV? Not yet.
I think it's an open
Maybe
discussion,
I can,
to share ideas and.
So maybe I can put a bit of input. Generally, what about the big non-renewable energy? That was the general statement. So I think many of these conventional energy producers or non-renewable energy, traditional suppliers, they are already embracing renewable energy. They have already going because they are addressing what the public want, what the general society wants moving forward. During the opening remark, Nizam has already mentioned, TNB is already planning to increase its renewable energy portfolio and already been practicing. I've already got a few in their portfolio which is already producing because customer wants, I think the utilities are embracing of giving customers choices. If you want renewable, you have to pay extra, let it be, we will provide you the option. And if you are not ready to pay more, we still have the option. I think that's pretty much what most of the utilities are embracing because renewable energy is there and it is here to stay and eventually making it happen. Now I'm speaking from the research point of view. From research point of view, the utilities are supporting a lot of research dedicated to renewable energy. I have to vouch for Tenaga Nasional Berhad because UNITEN is receiving some of the funding which is dedicated for supporting renewable energy, not necessarily direct for return, but to support. For example, just now I was mentioning about life cycle cost analysis. The research is funded by TNB. So that means they are looking at helping the industry how to embrace. So it is all about in harmony together and how we go forward. Okay. So that part, I think, and this university also very much, there's quite a lot of renewable energy research undertaken with the support of the Tenaga Nasional Berhad. Okay. So I think most utilities are doing the same.
Okay. It's good to know for the the benefit of the audience. We have about 10 minutes for the Q&A, and I have one question each left for panelists. Of course, Tunku, you have anything to add on?
Yeah, I was just going to comment. The oil and gas players that you're talking about, right? What will happen to them when renewable energy comes into play? Well, all of them have PPAs, so they all have their cost recovery schedules. And if you can see, to tell the truth, companies like Shell, they are the ones who's leading all the solar races all over the world. Even Petronas now, they are solarizing a lot of their properties. And in the downstream level, what will happen is we'll have charging stations instead of petrol stations. So these businesses will convert, they will change. You don't have to worry too much about them. But this is where I foresee the transition will change, because once batteries are cheaper, lithium ions, then you will see a very fast deplete of oil and gas facilities. Yeah.
Okay, so the question I would like to ask to Dr. Wayne. So based on what Ms. Wong has mentioned, 2025, 2050, we're talking about what is beyond that. And say, hypothetically, in an ideal world, will we become independent of non-renewable energy 100% before it's depleted? Do you think that, for example, the conventional energy will convert to renewable energy, for example, 100% before the resource even depleted? Or do you think that it's going to be a hard journey for them?
So I think I would like to first of all share that today there was a report that came out from UNEP. UNEP released, and I think if you go to your handphone now and Google about this UNEP emission gap, you'll find that going business as usual to an average temperature increase of 3.2 degrees Celsius. Now, the critical threshold that we must not exceed is a 2 degrees Celsius. So business as usual is already going to lead us to 3.2 degrees Celsius increase. And what it means in that report is that by 2030, global emissions needs to be halved by then. And what it also means is that starting from next year onwards, emissions cut must be at least 7.6% every year in order for us not to breach the target. So I just want to also share with you that the Stone Age did not finish because we ran out of stones. And also by the year 2050, we will actually reach to a great share of renewables because the climate just doesn't allow us that window of opportunity to slack in our climate initiatives. I think if we go back to that fundamental reason that, like what Tunku says, we don't really have a plan B when it comes to climate. We can't shift. There is no planet that we can shift everybody in such a short duration of time. It is really the preservation of mankind that we are doing this today. It may sound cliche, but it is really the honest truth. Yeah, and the good news is that renewable energy and energy efficiency, deep decarbonization will bring us there. So I'm running out of time, but I just want to share with you some insights into the future of energy. The future of energy will be largely electrified. And the fact that it is electrified, it is a good news because it means that renewable energy can power up a large chunk of it. Sometimes we are very obsessed with what's new and what's next. We get asked, SEDA gets asked a lot of the time, what's new and what's next. And even recently in our Global Future Council, I posed the same questions back to my members, what's new and what's next. The answer that was thrown back to me was that what we have today, the solutions that we have, the known problems that we know of today, that the solutions we are already developing will help us to reach 80% of renewable energy in the energy mix. There are the hard-to-abate sectors like the aviation, the shipping, the energy-intensive industry. Yes, we acknowledge that. But let's focus on the lower-hanging fruit. What we have today is good enough already. Focus on that just to get the temperature increase. We have to reduce. Today we are at 408 parts per million. the window of opportunity according to IPCC is only less than 20 years. We mustn't exceed that 450 parts per million. I think that is such a critical message to bring across to everybody. If everybody knew the criticalness that we are living in Malaysia, we are really in a critical state because we have a lot of coastline. And by the end of the century, if there is no global concerted effort to address climate change, much of the cities that are around the coastal region, I won't say it will be submerged, but the coastline will increase. So I think these are very serious issues that we need to collaborate with everyone, not just because we are only contributing to 0.6 of the global emissions, but big and small, we must actually collaborate together. I think the climate change really calls for the first time, after the World War I and World War II, this is the third treaty that is going to be for the preservation of the human mankind. I think this is really the key message that I really want to bring today.
Thank you, Doctor. Okay, Dato'. Thank you, that was very inspiring. Dato', so you mentioned about the challenge just now, the financial challenge. So if briefly, because we are running out of time, like how do you see it moving forward or to be improved from the MBIC or biomass point of view industry?
Oh, this is a
Of course, it's hopeful, but you know, since we are on this stage now,
consultancy question.
yeah, yeah, perhaps, yeah.
Certainly, we need to sit down with the government. When I refer government, I'm talking about a particular task force being created by the government. For instance, it consists of Ministry of Economic Affairs, MASTEC, Ministry of Primary Industry. If you really want to serious to champion these bioenergy sectors. When I talk about bioenergy, we are not just referring to electricity sectors. There are so many other business models, like for instance, biojet fuel, biodiesel, bio-CNG, as highlighted by Mr. Wong just now. Yeah. I think on particular business model linked to which biomass subcluster, we need to have different enabler from the government. Recently, I just did a study for SEDA and also UNDP. Yeah, I was asked to compare the low carbon business case for low carbon bus development in Malaysia using bio-CNG, CNG, fossil-based CNG, electricity, and biodiesel. Yeah. And my finding is very simple. To dream about bio-CNG in Malaysia, it will still remain as a dream for public transportation sector. Mainly because the fossil-based CNG sector is highly subsidized by the government, subsidized by Petronas, 50 cents per liter. So for us to unlock the potential of bio-CNG, in fact, the government should consider to subsidize this kind of green fuel rather than fossil-based CNG. So that need a lot of coordination from different ministries to unlock the potential. Yeah, so one perspective. Second perspective, I would like to throw another question to TNB. Since this is a TNB venue, yeah, I just checked TNB profit just now. They make about 5 billion ringgit profit last year before tax. Yeah, since everybody is talking about sustainability reporting, Bursa have already mandated all the listed company to look into sustainability reporting. Let's say TNB can park aside 1% of your net profit or gross profit, which is equivalent to 50 million ringgit. Yeah, for the purpose of, let's say, coal-firing, that will increase the bioenergy potential for the biomass sector in Malaysia immediately. Don't treat it as a profit center. Treat it as a CSR and sustainability initiative from your 5 billion profit. Yeah, hopefully TNB can consider this seriously. I proposed this to YB Yobi, she rejected, immediately. No chance, yeah. Not cost effective because she calculated from the dollar and cent perspective.
Yeah, sure.
But we need to look into the environmental benefit and the sustainable development benefit as a whole.
Yeah. And also turning waste into, into energy, right? It's like
So we need a lot of different strategy for different clusters.
Right. Right, thank you, Dato'. Okay, for Tunku, since solar is perhaps the biggest chunk of the renewable energy, It's definitely a growing market, right? And what do you think about the job opportunity for, you know what, for the young people?
Okay, so basically, job opportunities. Okay, if you're talking about large-scale solar, the solar plants are everywhere in Malaysia. So it could be in kampong areas. So it's a good place to take employment from people there because the businesses last for 21 years. So, you know, if you're from back home and you have a kampong and there's a solar field there, then you'll be working there. And if the mentality of the youth doesn't mind that, then yeah, it's a good thing, you know. We don't have to be cooped up in the city, you know. But for me, solar will be booming on the rooftops. So rooftops is everywhere as well, more to industrial areas and places like that, which is all over Malaysia. So yeah, I think good future, but just to watch out for the youth a little bit. If you guys all want to stay in KL, it's not really the thing. Maybe you guys can spread out, you know. The opportunities are everywhere.
Okay, thank you. Prof, last question for this panel session. From the academic also background and expertise and point of view, do you see more cross expertise in the in the future of renewable energy, for example, from the science, from the engineering point, and then you can also talk about big data, IoT. So do you see that it's heading the right way, or we're still focusing on engineering and not focusing on other things that can exponentially push this RE agenda faster?
Okay. I think from the academic perspective, we are also embracing into supporting the future, especially sustainability. So some of the research focus are on that is done here are enabling technologies to support renewable energy, such as big data analysis, IoT. In fact, now they are talking about Internet of Everything. So some of it is example. Trading green energy via blockchain. It can be, so you need to have the mechanism that is very much internet based.
Yep.
In Uniten, there's quite a number of research being undertaken currently, which is very much focused on that. And in this area, students are actively involved, and they are going to be the next generation of people who is going to enter the market with the strong knowledge and background in this field to support, so their employment will become more relevant. So we are making, as well as making marketable graduates for supporting the future agenda. So that's pretty much what we are doing.
All right.
I think in terms of sustainability, a lot of support is been given by TNB to work on sustainability. Also, while we are I can answer the question again. While TNB is reporting on sustainability is important, they are indeed setting aside some funding for sustainability, which later you can check with Encik Nizam. It's not that they never did anything. Way back since 2012, I am involved. Pretty much we are aware it is there. And it is not even, it's more than the quantum that he suggested. Thank you.
Let's catch up during lunch. Huh? Okay, that's all for the panel session. Please give a round of applause, please, to all our distinguished panelists.